Gen Z is entering the workforce with new perspectives and expectations.
In this podcast, we're here to listen to their stories and experiences, their successes and frustrations, and help employers understand the mindset and perspectives of the up-and-coming workforce.
Employers can't dictate what their young employees find meaningful. What they can do, however, is empower them to create their own sense of purpose and authentic connections.
Our curriculum is designed to help them do exactly that. East Valley Leader Lab is committed to paving the way for more curious, engaged, and connected young professionals in the workplace. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Eskew. This is Amanda Stradling. We are East Valley Leader Lab, and this is our podcast, Mind and Body at Work. If our content resonates with you, we hope you'll click on the link in the show notes for a description of our newest offer, Helping Gen Z Thrive at Work. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe to your YouTube channel or wherever it is that you get your podcasts.
All right, today we are going to discuss how all of us as human beings are historical beings. This is part of our SELPH series that we've been unrolling, the SELPH acronym that we got from Bob Dunham from the Institute of Generative Leadership. So SELPH, S for somatic, E for emotional, L for linguistic, P for practicing, and today H for historical beings. So Tim, what does it mean to be a historical being?
Yeah, so it means some things on a lot of different levels. We all are coming from millions of years of human evolution, or hominid evolution at least. We're all coming from the culture that we've grown up in, in our case, Western culture, and then it gets more and more specific depending on, what part of the country you were raised in and what family you were raised in. There's the specific environment you grew up in, exactly where you were born and grew up, and your own individual history since you were born. So those are all different levels of history that are relevant to how we show up. And if we don't examine that history at some point in our life and how it has shaped us as an individual, it can cause us to be somewhat limited in the way we show up as a leader or just as a person in everyday life.
Definitely. Of course, on the flip side of that is that we do have the ability to increase our awareness and then examine how our history is shaping us today. And we each have the potential to show up differently tomorrow. We're not slaves to our history. We each have a choice to live and lean into what we care about most instead of just kind of acting out the limited beliefs and the history that we were handed. Tim, do you have any examples about your history and how you've reframed some things?
Sure. So, yeah, we've got the history, and then there's the possibility of overcoming that. So, in my case, one of the aspects of my history that was challenging, and I wasn't aware of it until I went through some of my own embodiment training, was I figured out by examining that I did not trust myself to just show up and be myself and share what I had to share. So, I was operating as a professional, as a consultant in corporations, and I had lots of opportunities to get up in front of people and tell them, this is important for the way that you work together. And I just didn't trust myself to remember everything and to show up and be able to present it. So I had to rehearse and sometimes try to memorize, 30, 45 minutes worth of material because I was so afraid I would not get everything across in just the right way. And so there was a whole history that produced that in me. And after I had the insight and with some embodiment training help, I was able to shift the way that I thought about preparing. First I had to shift the way I thought about, can I trust myself to show up? Am I able to deal with whatever comes out? I had been telling myself I couldn't, I was able to make that shift in mindset, and then I could shift the way that I prepared and just bring a few notes instead of, trying to rehearse everything from scratch.
That's such a good example. A point I really want to drive home for our listeners is the use of embodiment as part of your journey, right?
Yeah.
Our history is something that we feel in our nervous system, in our muscles, in our posture, in the way we enter a room, in the way we interact and are open or not open to the people around us. It's very much in our body, and it's from our history in the past.
Yeah. A lot of times, there are things from our past where we wanted to shut down some part of our life. There were some emotions that we didn't want to face, right? And our body has a way of kind of helping us shut that out from us.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you don't examine that, you don't have access to those emotions when you need them. So that's another way that it shows up. Do you have an example of how this has played out in your life?
Definitely. I think in the culture that I was raised in, and growing up as an oldest child, I think there was a lot of perfectionism, kind of just really high expectations. And the way I felt that in my body was fear. I think just a lot of caution, a lot of timidness. And it was very hard for me to take risks and to put myself out there and to connect with other people. I was really very shy when I was very young. But luckily, I found a physical embodiment practice through Tai Chi and martial arts pretty young that helped me kind of to take away some of that armoring that I was doing so I wouldn't have to feel afraid, and just gave me the courage to kind of move through that and to start to embody a new history, and that I didn't have to be perfect, especially. So I wasn't very good at martial arts initially, and that was hard for me. And it took a long time to be able to be comfortable making mistakes, and they call it the white belt mentality a lot in martial arts, like the humility and the courage it takes to be a white belt, to learn something new.
Yeah, to be a beginner.
Yeah.
Right, and just face up to the fact that you're a beginner and you don't know much about it, and you're open to learning new stuff.
Absolutely.
To try in a new way.
I got to embody making a lot of mistakes, which might sound like a silly thing to hold in your body, but yeah, I do now. It's okay for me to mess up on things, and that's really given me the ability to do a lot more with my life.
That's a great example, Amanda. So in a nutshell, this is about, do we take the time to examine kind of where we came from and what we've put away that we didn't want to face, and can we kind of take that out in light of what it is that we think is important in the world, and let it open us up to the way that we can show up and be most effective in taking care of what we really care about. And so, this season we're talking about Gen Z, and that raises the question, what kind of history are they bringing, and what can we do to help them, give them an opportunity, to maybe examine that. And what's been fascinating for me this season is to hear Gen Z talk about, what was going on when they were growing up. A lot of them have just brought it up, right?
Yeah.
So I lived through COVID. There's all this political polarity. There's certain things that, you can't talk about right now, or you might get in trouble in your family or in with your friends. So they're aware that there are things in their history that are shaping the way they show up.
Yeah, and so for them, it's history, right?
Right.
But, contextually, it's newer stuff. Their parents didn't grow up with the same maybe housing insecurity or economic changes, or quite the level of inflation.
Right.
So things that feel new maybe to some of the managers and trainers, they're they're the whole lifespan of the younger generation that's really been forming them.
Right. Right. And the setting that each of these young people grew up in is going to impact how, the current history is impacting them and the way they respond to it. But the point is, in embodiment training, we give people the opportunity to examine what it is that's shaping the way that they feel in certain situations, the way that they feel comfortable showing up and the way that they don't feel comfortable showing up. And we give them an opportunity to rewrite that history a little bit, right? Write a story about what it is that they want to accomplish and how they need to show up to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think this training is so valuable to unlock this awareness around history. And of course, for the Gen Z worker to understand their history and to choose a more productive, value-driven path, but also for their managers to understand the history that they're coming from and that it is unique and that, they might have a different background shaping them than the manager does.
Yeah, and I think it's been interesting as we've talked to people who are working with these young people, leaders and managers and consultants. Many of them are bringing that up, right? That you need to have some curiosity about where these kids are coming from, what has historically shaped them, and you really need to listen and ask some questions to have a chance of kind of bridging that generation gap.
Absolutely. Is that about everything you wanted to cover for history today?
I think we've done. I think we've provided a nice introduction to the SELPH acronym. A little bit of information about each of these things. Obviously, we delve into them in much more detail in our courses, and it's very experiential based. So it's not just talking about them, but learning practices to deal with these things and examine these things, and bring out the best in the leaders that each person is.
Absolutely. SELPH. They're all things that we experience in our mind and our bodies. So that physical practice really helps bring that additional awareness.
Yep. Do you want to take us out?
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you to our listeners. And we'll see you next time. Be well and keep moving. This has been Mind and Body at Work with the East Valley Leader Lab. Please click on the link in the show notes for a description of our newest offer, Helping Gen Z Thrive at Work. This is our embodiment training to help new young workers integrate into your organization.
As always, if this content resonates with you and your cares, please like, share, and/or subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever it is you get your podcast. Be well and keep moving.